In this week's video on A Brit in Poland, I take you to the city of Sochaczew. Now, this is an interesting place that I'd never heard of, but I'm really happy I went here. It is full of beauty, wonderful parks, a cool railway museum, and an old castle. And also, there is a nice little bonus to this video, and Chopin fans may be pleased to hear that this is his birthplace, and we're going to be covering that story in this video as well, including how to get there easily from Sochaczew. Dzień dobry, and welcome to A Brit in Poland. This channel is going to bring you everything you need to know about Poland. I am exploring the country, bringing you the history, trying to tell you about the culture and show you what it is really like to live here. So feel free to check out my other media, Instagram, Facebook, and I will share links to those in the comments. I also have a website, www.britlivinginpoland.com, where I collate my videos for easy to view manner. Also, you are welcome to contribute to my efforts through Patronite or Patreon, and all descriptions are available below the video. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please come back for more by subscribing, liking, or commenting. Thank you very much. Do zobaczenia. Thank you very much to my Patreon and Patronite subscribers. Really appreciate your efforts. So Sochaczew is very central Poland. It is in fact very close to Warsaw, just about an hour west by train. So very easy to get to if you are coming from Warsaw, and it makes a lovely day trip. So yes, we took the train, and the city is actually pretty old. It's first mentioned in 1138, and this guide is kind of based on a guide we found online. So I'm going to accredit that guide in the comments, so you can follow the same route. That was an old water tower powering steam trains back in the day. This was a very random motorcycle place, but I just loved the decor and I had to include it. Now, Sochaczew, one of its main claims to fame is the fact that it had like a steam operated railway, and it has one of the best and biggest museums for railways in Poland. And you know, the railway itself goes back to 1903 when the city was connected to Warsaw. And actually the city ran a narrow gauge railway to Campinos Forest back in 1919, so during the interwar period. The museum itself dates back to 1984 and has been used for film production and music videos. You may notice all the clocks in the museum show 3:35 p.m. and this is the time of the last train that departed from the district railway in 1984. And now it just serves as a fun place to walk around. There are descriptions of things in English, so it is tourist friendly. And I love the little model railways as well. So then we took a little bit of a wander, and our next destination is going to be the Jewish cemetery. Now, there are a lot of Jewish cemeteries in Poland, but this one is actually one of the oldest, dating back to the 15th, 16th century. It was destroyed during World War II, bloody Nazis, and reopened in 1989 with a Wailing Wall established in 1991. It's pretty impressive. To get access, you just have to go to the flower shop on the corner and they will lend you the key. And it has some pretty impressive monuments. The oldest grave survives back to about 1810. So next we went to Park Ignacy Włodzimierz Garbolewski, and there's an important manor here which was built in 1800 for the Włosiński family,
and is currently a music school. And the park itself is a pretty cool place. And I'm going to show you some music performed by my group who just wanted to have fun. And we had such lovely weather on this day out. Yeah, it's always fun to be a little bit of a kid again, especially when you're on these random day trips. And this was without alcohol, I'll add. But yeah, so this was a lovely park, and it was like our, let's say, third main stop. Here is part of the narrow gauge railway. And you can still take this from the museum, actually. Here's like a little hint of the, let's say, the industrial scale of the city, and it has a lot of industrial roots. In fact, the next building we're going to is called Kramnica, and this one was built by Bonifacy Witkowski in 1828, and is the like kind of remnant of the economic boom of that time. It is a kind of slightly reconstructed and such. But yeah, lovely murals, and we're about to get to the main square. And this was just a nice little square, you know, with you've got a museum, you've got a church, and lots of cafes and shops and that kind of thing. Nice fountains, you know. You have to say that in Poland they make very nice squares that are very relaxing places and pretty harmonious, I would say. So the church here is the Church of St. Lawrence, and it dates back to the 13th century originally, though the current building was made in 1960. Of course, it was one of these buildings that was probably destroyed numerous times, especially during the war, which we will get onto very shortly. Behind this church is the Rosary Garden, and this is perhaps the most amazing part of the city. It is like this serene, tranquil place, and if you go to Sochaczew, you have to go here. You really do. It's like another world. It's also known as the Garden of Reflection in the Bziura Valley, and it's a meeting place with God, nature, and other people. The Garden of Reflection and Silence was designed in a way that the image of Our Lady of the Rosary plays a key role. A painting which appeared in the castle in 1435 in the chapel of the Masovian prince, thanks to the brother of one of the princes. The princes gave him the Dominican monastery, and so for 500 years he became famous for many graces and healings. During the war, no trace of it was lost, but recently it was reconstructed on the basis of an old black and white photograph. The central point of the garden is a chapel on an island in the pond, and there are 14 stations around the reservoir. In each of them you'll find a figure of Christ carrying the cross, and one of him doing time travel, because you see some guys with muskets. So I think this part may have been left out of the Bible. But yeah, really beautiful place. So next up, we are going to go to the museum, and this is the Museum of the Battle of the Bziura. And this was a very significant battle for Poland during World War II. It lasted from September 9th until September 22nd in 1939. And it was the greatest battle of the Polish campaign. It comprised the Poznan and Pomorze armies, and this time the Polish were attacking the Germans, and it was perhaps one of the biggest attacks against the German forces before 1941. And it was kind of designed to push the German lines back, to try and reclaim some territory like Łowicz, and also to take the pressure off Warsaw, as well as some of the other Polish armies that were kind of in retreat, you could say. The Germans were held at the river by the Polish armies, but sadly the city was severely damaged by German artillery and airstrikes, and eventually the poles were worn down and many troops were captured or killed, which unfortunately is a familiar story during World War II. But next, you have a monument to the, I think, the first king who was killed here, and this rather, let's say, racy artwork. This is Chopin's Park, which has its own amphitheatre and is just a small little stretch, but another bit of greenery that breaks up the city. And we're soon going to get to the castle of the Dukes of Masovia, which is just on the other side of this amphitheatre. You can see it up on the hill there. And this was originally a wooden settlement in the 12th century. And, it was a settlement in the 12th century, and then a castle in the 13th century. And then the brick structure was built in the 14th. However, this was destroyed in 1608 by the Swedish deluge, because the Swedes loved to destroy Poland, and rebuilt in the 18th century. And then destroyed by the Prussians in 1794. And they kind of gave up after that. So that's why you just have the ruin up on the hill. So we took a bit of a walk down the river, and here's some nice views from the castle hill. But to fill in a little bit more of the history. So one of the significant things of Sochaczew is the rights for the whole of Masovia were written here, I think in the 14th century. There were a large number of specialized craftsmen in the 15th century. The city burned down in 1618, occupied by the Swedes 1655, occupied by the Prussians 1793. There's a common theme here. And in 1815 it came under Russian rule and became an industrial town in the 19th century. It was heavily damaged in World War I, and in 1941 the Germans established a ghetto. Here is the bus to, Żelazowa Wola, and this is the second part of the video. So now it is basically a giant museum centered around the place where Chopin was born and would grow up and subsequently visit a number of times because his family lived here. The manor in the center was originally owned by the Skarbek family, and they inhabited the villa from about 1802. The Chopin family, they lived in the west wing of the manor, and it perhaps wasn't the ideal state. There weren't even wooden floors at the time. And Chopin was actually born in 1810. And he would basically grow up and live here before moving formally to Warsaw, where he was schooled. He would give concerts under the lime trees on visits to the estate. And his last visit to this particular estate was in 1830. So now you have the reconstructed house, which is reconstructed in a 19th century manner. And you have a lovely bit of history to talk about the reconstruction. Sadly, none of the artifacts within are actually original. So in 1894, there was a monument built to Chopin by the Russian composer Mile Balakirev. And in 1926, the Warsaw Society of Friends and the Sochaczew Chopin Committee bought the land, renovated the manor, and it was open to the public in 1939. The landscape park itself surrounding the manor dates from the 18th century, and you will now find that there are 10,000 species of trees, shrubs, perennials, and bulbous plants. And in the summer, from May until September, every Sunday you will find Chopin concerts are performed in the park at 12 and 3 o'clock. Walking through the park, you will find, numerous statues to Chopin, of course. He is definitely the main theme here. Also, you will find dotted throughout the park speakers which are playing his music, so you get the whole Chopin ambiance while you're walking through. It's definitely a park to visit on a sunny day, and with all of the flowers coming to bloom, it is a very relaxing and really tranquil place. Somewhere that I've actually been to a couple of times, and I love it. You know, with little ponds here and there, you have a stream running through it with some bridges coming across. You know, plenty of areas to kind of have a sit down. And yeah, you can just lose yourself here for, you know, a good few hours, really. There's a cafe and things as well, if you want to get some food or stop for ice cream, which we did when we were here last time. And tickets aren't that expensive. I think about 25 zloty, and I think that includes entry to the park as well as the museum. It's kind of optional whether you go to the museum or not. But lots of beautiful flowers, and yeah, it's like a massive space to walk around, so I really do recommend it. And by the way, that bus to get there, the number 6 bus from Sochaczew, is completely free. I think it runs roughly every hour, and it's quite handy. And here are some bonus shots of when I visited this place during one of the winters, and you can see how beautiful it looks covered in snow with the frozen ponds. And yeah, beautiful. A real kind of monument to Chopin. And Chopin, I think, you can't escape him in Poland, especially in Warsaw. Because you find statues, concert halls, concerts everywhere. You know, he's the big claim to fame. And you also have the Museum of Chopin in Warsaw as well, which is covered in one of my other videos. Perhaps I'll put a link to that, which is worth visiting if you're a big fan of his. But thank you very much.